Yo, 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 yo. What's up, what's up, what's up? Give up the rock and hello to my fellow revolutionaries. You know who you are. And can I just say, a very happy Friday to you. All right. I don't know where you're joining me from exactly, but if you're coming in from Australia, then you know exactly what I'm talking about here. I am saying happy Friday because we live in the future. But if you're coming from somewhere else like America or another country and you haven't hit Friday yet and you're still living in the past, let me just tell you that the future is bright. And 4AS has started the roll call this morning with his yo, 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 what's up, what's up, what's up? And I'm assuming he's about to say give up the Dwayne because we like to, yeah, there it is, because we like to give up the rock here. Indoctrinathan. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yes, it is happy Friday. And let us do our usual Friday pleasantries, ladies and gentlemen. Give up the Johnson. Let us, first of all, say on this very, very important day of the working week, the eve of the weekend, a time where capital is not supposed to touch us because working people have fought very hard in the past to get you some time, some small amount of time in your life where you can be free from the clutches of capital. That is called the weekend. And I hope you enjoy your time away from capital. And if you do have to work, I hope that you get compensated for that. I hope you get some good conditions or you get some additional pay, some penalty rates, something like that. And 4AS has beaten me to it. But as I usually say on this Friday, the eve of the weekend, I would like to acknowledge all workers, past, present, and emerging. It is you. It is on your shoulders that the capitalist system is built, and it is thanks to your efforts that we have all of the wonderful things that we have around us. So I would like to pay, yes, my respects to all workers out there. You know who you are. We are the real people that make society go around, and we should never forget that's where the real power is at. So those are our Friday introductions, and today we're going to be doing something very special. We are going to be doing a 2K subs celebration. If you didn't know, the channel on YouTube recently cracked 2K subs, and it's a long weekend, baby. Oh yes. Indoctrination is correct. I should acknowledge that. It's a long weekend. God bless Elvis Presley for this extra day off, because if you didn't know what Indoctrinathan is alluding to, it is the king's birthday, and there is only one king, and it is Elvis. You may be mistaken for acknowledging Michael Jackson as the king of pop. We will take that king also, but we will pledge fealty to no other, because there are no other kings, especially from a revolutionary perspective, because the idea of having kings and monarchical structures is not only outdated, antiquated, and a bit ridiculous, but like it is starting to surface in the neo-reactionary movement. So we've really got to resist against this type of stuff anyway. So we don't pay homage to kings. So we're just going to call it a long weekend for the sake of the fact that it is additional time for working people to enjoy something called life. Something called life. You may have heard of it. You may have come across it before. So yes, enjoy your long weekend. And if you are working on a public holiday, I hope you get some, like I said, some good penalty rates and compensation for having to be confronted with labor during your time off. King of the Blue Suede Shoes, says 4AS. Amen. It's definitely not Wally Lewis. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. I like that. That was a good nod to some Australian culture there, especially East Coast Australian culture, especially if you are down with rugby league history. And I know we have had some recent Queenslanders join on the Discord. I believe Francis introduced himself as a Queenslander, and so he may have a different opinion there in regards to King Wally Lewis indoctrination. Only time will tell. But we take all sorts as part of this movement. So before we start the Q&A session of today, I'm just actually going to bring up the stream chat. So let's just give me a second as we look at the stream chat here, just to make sure I'm not missing anything there, because that would be disastrous. Where's the stream chat? Here we go. Avalava, there's only one true king here. The propensity to accumulate capital. Isn't that a very unfortunate reminder of the fact that the people that the entity that we truly serve in a capitalistic mode of production is not some lord of the realm. It's not some king figure, something personified. No, it is the propensity and the motivation to incessantly accumulate capital at all costs. And we will apparently break down all barriers as a society until we are able to continue to just accumulate capital at any cost. So it's an unfortunate reality, but maybe that's what it is. And maybe that's what we should be celebrating. Let's be honest. If we were true about our intentions in this society, we wouldn't be celebrating the long weekend as the king's birthday. We'd be celebrating as Capital Day or something like that, to celebrate what truly rules over all of humanity. A very, very rude awakening in that statement there, Avalava. So thank you for the slapping us in the face with some reality right there. Now, before we get onto the Q&A, I just want to add to something that I spoke about yesterday, I believe, where we were going on about like the whole Trump and Musk feud. There's been a bit of a development over the last 24 hours. I'm not sure if you're across it or not, but like it's ramped up. Trump has responded to Musk basically calling the big beautiful bill, calling it out for, basically reckless spending. And, Trump went a little bit further and responded and said, what's the thing that he used? What did he say exactly? He said, Donald Trump said, the easiest way to save money in our budget. So this is again in response to Elon Musk's call about his disdain for the big beautiful bill. The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. Now, these be fighting words. Again, the feud is getting a bit more heated at the moment. And he's basically just saying, yeah, look, Elon, you survive off government contracts. And this is what we've been saying for months now, is that these tech bros, this very particular form of techno-feudalism, they are actually married to the state. Okay, they don't exist on the free market by the sale of their much desired consumer goods to the general population. That is not really how they make a lot of their money. They live by feeding off the state. And here we have Musk calling it out for what it is. Sorry, Trump calling it out for what it is and saying that, Elon, we'd all save a lot of money if we didn't have your government subsidies and if you didn't survive off subsidies and government contracts. And then in classic Trump fashion, just knocking it off and saying, yeah, but Biden should have done something about it. It's Biden's problem. Well, let me tell you, Trump, you have the ability now then to do what Biden didn't do and start cutting the tech bros off. Go on, start chopping off the tech bros at the knees and we'll see what that looks like. And then, Elon responded with, in light of the president's statements about cancellation of my government contracts, we're going to be decommissioning the Dragon spacecraft immediately. And the Dragon spacecraft is, On today's episode of America, yeah, Steven Z. Isn't it like that? Like, seriously. I feel like I'm being sucked into a bit of a fucking vortex here. But, like, it's related to what we're talking about. I am not going to start, like, following American, like, reality TV style politics here, but this is in relation to the tech bros. And like I have been saying for months now, the tech bros and like the White House have come together in a very special merger, which indicates who are the most important section of the bourgeoisie. And there seems to be a rift going on there. I don't buy it. I think this is all a fucking show. I think this is all part of like this very well curated social media campaign by two figures who, for obvious reasons, have had to separate. They've had to separate one for one reason, that like Musk's tenure was up. He was a special government employee and that position is gone now. He can't just hang around. And so he's going to go off and do his own thing. And so like Trump as well can return to being the president of the United States and stop being accused by so many people of just being Musk's lackey. Who is the real president? Donald Trump, if you're just taking orders off Elon Musk all the time, because he bought his way in to the presidency, of course. And so like this is a perfect opportunity. This is my assessment. This is a perfect opportunity for these two titans of narcissism to separate themselves and repair their own images. Donald Trump wants to be the big boss, the man, and like he doesn't want to live in a world where he is beholden to Elon Musk anymore. And so like this feud, this well curated PR campaign, let's be honest, has been put together by the people that they're social media managers. And like Donald Trump is now seeking his independence as the big bad president. And like Elon Musk has a lot of damage control to do, a lot of fucking damage control to do, because like before his association with the Trump campaign, like people loved him on all sides of the political spectrum. I used to talk to lefties all the time, or progressives, or whatever they want to call themselves, and be like, are you sure that you're down with Elon Musk? Like he is a capitalist. And like I'm sure like at the end of the day, his plans, no, even if they do align with like, you know, environmental goods, let's say, and some environmental agenda, like he's still a capitalist. And like his agenda is generally the exploitation of his workers and society to sustain his profits and therefore his power. And like people loved him. And then once he associated with himself with Trump, then like, oh my God, he got smeared. And so like he has to repair a lot of the damage. Now, a lot of people will say, hand on heart, oh, you could never repair the damage. Elon has been absolutely destroyed in my mind. But like, you know, you watch all the people jump on now and be like, you know, like he's standing up against Trump. You know, you got to give Elon a second chance. So like, as far as I see this feud benefits the both of them very well. Now, this all came out recently after the developments just the other day, because what Elon Musk really said, that's like they really must have got under Trump's skin, was it's time to drop the real big bomb. And it was Trump has been implicated in the Epstein files, and that's the reason that they aren't public. That's the real reason they have not been made public, because Donald Trump is in there, is in the Epstein files, and that's basically the allegation is he is suppressing this story from coming out and being a big problem. Now, you know what like my reading is on this? Elon Musk is a perpetual whinger and a narcissist. And you know what? Anyone has a picture with Epstein. Like anyone, like honestly, who is famous enough and is like in the elite sections of Western society has some association with Epstein. And like Musk is upset that he's not in the Epstein files. That's what that post was really about. It's just like, well, I wasn't implicated, so like, let's go after Trump then. I'm going to smear his name by bringing this stuff up again. And so like, the only reason I want to bring this up is like, I would say to you, don't be fooled by this shit. The tech bros are not separating themselves from the levers of power in America. Hell no. Hell no. If like Elon Musk and Trump are doing this, I think it just suits the recreation of their own image as independent actors. But do not think that the tech bros are separating themselves at all from the levers of power in America. They are nestled in, they've burrowed in like a tick into the White House, and they are getting stuff done. They've got they've got Project Stargate, $500 billion worth of investment in AI and artificial technologies, intelligence technologies. They've got that special subsection in the big beautiful bill that protects them from any regulation from the state and the local level, only at the federal level that we spoke about the other day. And like, here's the other thing. Where did he say it? Where did he say it? There was something in here where Musk basically said, he called for, as a result of this feud, this exchange, he called for Trump to be impeached. Okay? And can you guess where this is going? He called for Trump to be impeached and asked for J.D. Vance to be handed the presidency. Now, if you can read between the lines on that one, J.D. Vance, if you remember, is the puppet, the political puppet, the vice president who has completely been made by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel controls J.D. Vance. He made him what he is. And so, like, it suits, I would say, the tech bros just fine for someone like Elon Musk to call Donald Trump to be impeached and to have J.D. Vance to be the new president of the United States. Because then they would have full, unrestricted access to the White House and the most important levers of power in the capitalist world. So watch this space. The tech bros, this is serving their interests beautifully, all of this drama. Ollie Atlas is here. Thanks for doing the roll call. It's good to see you. Indoctrination says, I think they have fallen out. It's not because of any of this. It's because of D. Ruggs and the Sam Altman and OpenAI have been getting most of the government contracts lately. That's funny. Of the D. Ruggs. I wonder what you're referring to there. Even if all this happens and people try to whitewash his reputation, it won't work. All you have to do is put up that video of him giving a salute and he's done. Well, like, I wish that was real, Indoctrination, because, like, he should have gone down for that salute and he didn't. Like, his supporters and, like, the Trump crowd loved him for it even more. They doubled down on it. I saw a really good video of, what's his name? Charlie Kirk. And someone was like, was it a Nazi salute? And Charlie Kirk was like, no, it wasn't a Nazi salute. And they were like, okay, good. You do it then, Charlie. Do it right now. If you think it wasn't a Nazi salute, do it. And Charlie Kirk's like, no, I'm not doing it. He's like, you fucking bullshit artist. And he called him out so well. I thought that was a very clever play. And yeah, Kirk wouldn't do it, but it's not a Nazi salute, so I don't know why he wouldn't do it. You do know Trump is actually in the files though, right? Like, he definitely is. Bro even rented one of Jeff's old planes last year for his campaign. Yeah, look, I'm sure he is. But, like, what I'm saying is that, like, anyone who's anyone in the elite circles in America would have been implicated by Epstein to some degree, and would have met him and shook hands with him and had a photo with him at least. And Musk is just jealous that he wasn't important enough at the time when all of this was happening. Villains, Oli Atlas says, villains always feud against each other. Xanthophil, hello and welcome to this special stream. Now, I'm done with the American drama or the Musk and Trump stuff, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone's, like, not getting caught on that hype train and thinking that this means the end for the tech bros. As I see it, this strengthens their resolve. They've already got access to the White House, and it's not going away just because Musk and Trump are two megalomaniacs that are having a Twitter battle at the moment. It'll be fine. Okay, but if he tries to whitewash his image, then the people defending him aren't the people he's trying to convince. He's burnt bridges that can't be rebuilt. It's funny that you say that, indoctrination, because I've had a discussion with someone about this, and they're like, no, it's too far gone. His image is too far gone. I just don't have the same faith that you do in the masses. I think people are fickle, and like in the face of like, you know, fighting against evil Trump, they will start picking up on Elon Musk as being a new savior because, like, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of stuff. And they'll be happy to support Elon Musk as long as he continues to smear Donald Trump. And that seems to be the way they'll land. I'll try to keep an eye on the stream chat just in case there's anyone in Discord. Now, has anyone got a question? Like I said that today is going to be a Q&A. And I wouldn't mind to keep the questions around that. I disagree, but only time will tell. Well, I hope you're right. I really do hope you're right. But like, you know, with the whole Nazi salute thing, like I was sure, and many people were sure that like that was it, nail in the coffin, he's done. And like people didn't stop him. It didn't affect him at all. Actually, it probably energized him a little bit because he thought he was fucking invincible. So, I hope you're right. I hope you're right that he's gone too far down the garden path, old musky boy, and he can't repair his image because people loved him. People really loved him, and especially some prominent lefties were really like on the train with Elon Musk. But yes, anyone, I will take any questions. Please let me know, like I said, in the Discord or in YouTube on the stream chat. I got censored on YouTube. This is Ninja Nurse AU. I just wanted to make a comment about how the big beautiful bill pays for their tax cards by slashing Medicaid and social welfare. It's really sad that a rich country like America can't provide universal health care to their most vulnerable. Cuts to healthcare make me sad. It is sad. It is really fucking sad. And you know what we were talking about yesterday? There's another part of the, you know how you've mentioned their social welfare, like cuts and stuff like that? Well, social welfare cuts, I did a little bit more digging into what that actually means. Because I thought they were just like cutting social security and stuff. But there's this program called SNAP, which is like this food foundation organization or something like that. And the food foundation is basically the organization that took over from food stamps. And so like there are people in America that are like pretty poor, or like they don't have the ability to get access to the right nutrition. And so like they basically live on food stamps or support, food support. And like the cuts for these taxes are coming, yes, from Medicaid and from food stamps. So like feeding people. So like providing health care to your population and providing food for people to eat that are living below the poverty line or impoverished to some degree. That is what they're cutting to help support these massive tax cuts. Like that's fucking crazy. Like it's not just about like the health. They're also going after like, that's the like, most basic shit ever. Like people need to eat. Like that's it, like flat. Like, and they're cutting that. It's really scary. I recently found out that their welfare program is administered by a private company. Imagine in Australia if Centrelink was run by a private company. It blows my mind. That is pretty scary actually. And like talk about neoliberal. Like imagine that being like, yes, we need social security, we need welfare. Let's just turn that over to the private sector. What could go wrong there? Nothing. Good old private sector. They'll know how to look after people. Whereas it's like they want to pour petrol on the flames. Reverse Robin Hood, Jaden Storis. Jaden, I'm not sure if you've been here before. Have you been in on a stream? Let me know if this is your first time or not. They want a revolution. It is like reverse Robin Hood though, isn't it? It's like literally robbing from like the poorest people that survive off like assistance for, you know, food and like medication and like just handing that over to the rich. What conservatives and liberals have in common is they're both more naive than they assume. Very interesting. Yes. I think, you know what, like I'm always critical of the conservatives, but like I think, we need to be particularly critical of liberals in that regard as well. Because like they are very dangerously naive, I think. Um, because like they pretend to be the solution to like, capital's problems. And like their naivety gets them into trouble all the time because they can't see past the problems of capital itself. And they can never call it what it is. Like we were watching that video the other day in the stream about like these people that were talking about like all of these issues because of the tech bros, but like they just wouldn't call it, like bring it down to the fact that like the tech bros are working within a capitalist system and like capitalism itself as a system has all of these problems. And they were describing all of these like, problems that you would describe as problems of the capitalist mode of production, but they just couldn't say it. They didn't have the terminology. They didn't have the any way of articulating these problems because they completely blindsided. And that's, liberals are very naive in that regard, I'd say. Now, first time, found you on the FJ pod. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. And we're doing a special 2K special today. So, like, do you have any questions, Jaden? Foxes and Wolves, Malcolm X. That says 4IS. I don't know the reference. What does that mean? 4IS. Let's have a look at what 4IS is talking about, shall we? What is Foxes and Wolves? It seems to be a quote by Malcolm X. The phrase you're referring to, foxes and wolves, is indeed a metaphor famously used by Malcolm X to describe the Democratic and Republican parties in the United States, particularly in the context of racism and political deception. Here's the core in Malcolm X's words, paraphrase and summarize. The difference between the Democrats and the Republicans is like the difference between the fox and the wolf. The wolf shows his teeth, he's aggressive and obvious, while the fox is sly and hides his intentions. Both are dangerous, but the fox will fool you, pretending to be your friend. Ooh, snap. That's a really good analogy, isn't it? I like that. He used this metaphor to criticize the tendency of liberal politicians, especially white liberals aligned with the Democratic Party, to present themselves as allies to black Americans while covertly maintaining the same oppressive systems as their openly racist conservative counterparts. Example quote, 1964, the ballot or the bullet speech. What a sick name as well for a speech, the ballot or the bullet. The fox pretends to be friendly with you, the wolf doesn't. You know where the wolf is coming from. He's right up front. That's the one you can deal with. The fox will fool you. He comes at you with a smile and a whole lot of deceit. A whole lot of misdirection. So good. That's great. Ollie Atlas says liberalism often ends up driving woke capitalism, which just ends up harming their movement. Yes, because like they double down on the identity politics in an endeavor to, like we've been talking about for a long time, like to humanize capitalism. They want things to like even out the capitalist system. They see a problem with like sexism, let's say, and there's like a disparity between in the working classes or in employment between men and women. And so they come up with all of these initiatives to try and remedy that remedy that problem. But like they don't see that the problem is the system itself. And they think they can just, bring in this legislation, bring in this policy change, and bring in this new agenda. And like that'll fix it. But it's never going to fix it because the problems are systematic. And so the identity politics just start compounding on themselves and then are used as a stick by conservatives to beat people up when it doesn't work or it produces other problems. And so it's just never ending. been wondering, do you see value in stakeholder revolutionary methods? As in super like systems where workers slowly own more and more of the means of production. So like you're talking, like you've been speaking about super quite a bit. So you're talking about where we have, I'm assuming, a system where workers are basically a large investor class or a large shareholder in some common assets or something like that. I think that that's fine. I think that that's not a problem at all. So, like, if you, like, let's say with the Russian Revolution, for example, what happened in that circumstance was the state took over the role of the bourgeois class or the capitalist class, and they nationalized all industry, and the Central Party ran the industry eventually, ran the industry in the effort to deliver on the 5-year plans. And the fact that they nationalized all industry and it was run and controlled by the Central Party, which is representative of the workers, then you had, like, arguably a situation where you have workers in control of everything. I think that's 2 steps too far removed. And if you're going to have a system where, like, all of the means of production in a society, including everything like resources, as well as like the technology that mines those resources and develops and processes those resources and turns them into commodities so they can be consumed on the market, you would have to have all of those things if they were nationalized and held in a big pool by all the sovereign individuals in that country, all the people that were, considered to be citizens worthy of a say in the political process. You would actually have to have that stuff democratically controlled, in my opinion. So, like, in the sense that, like, super, let's say we're in Australia, our retirement system, just for anyone who's not Australian, has been geared is that, like, every working person, everyone who's on a salary, has to contribute part of their salary. Usually it's the employer that does this as terms of contract, but they sacrifice some of their salary and they put it into a fund somewhere, and it's managed by some super organization, and they accumulate that money and they pour it into certain investments, and so hopefully it grows, and so people can pay for their own retirement. Basically they draw from that, and that will be their pension at one point. Now that system, though, I would say is completely detached from the workers themselves, because at a certain point they are forced to give over that money and they have very little say in what happens to it. It's organized or managed by an organization in their interests. They might have some voting power. They might be able to rock up to general meetings and stuff like that. But for the most part, the decisions are made for them, and, like, the agendas are set, and, like, they might just have a little say at an annual general meeting from time to time. They don't really have participation in that process. Now, if you're going to nationalize all of the means of production, like everything, like I was saying, like from the resources in the ground up to, like, all of the technology and all of the workplaces and all that sort of stuff, and you could somehow get everybody in on democratically deciding what to do with those resources, then, like, I'm all for that style of nationalization. But what usually happens in, like, communistic experiments, let's call them, is that, like, the state claims and, like, nationalizes the means of production and claims them in the name of the workers, and then just runs them via some centralized party who are pretty detached, I would say, from the general population. And so, like, it's really just state capitalism in that regard. And you just have a bunch of, like, bureaucrats running the economy, and, like, in the name of the workers, as opposed to the workers really doing it. So, like, I would be all for nationalizing stuff and running things that way. Like, honestly, if we could actually figure out proper democratic control over things, I think that would be a very interesting way of running society, to be honest. Ollie Atlas says Charlie Kirk, in a speech, used Malcolm X's line concerning white liberalism against liberalism, despite the fact he also hated conservatism. Yeah, well, like, that's the thing. Like, I find with these right-wing commentators and stuff like that, they're happy to use little throwaway lines. And like, if you ask them the context of where that came from, it doesn't matter, because like, at the end of the day, they are speaking to the same working class people. And so those lines are very effective for them because working class people are picking up on the same issues. But it's just funny, like, they're drawing sources from very radical leftist origins, and like, you call them out on that sort of stuff and they just don't know what to do with it. I just keep thinking that nationalized industries are often privatized, are often privatized too often. But if that ownership is socialized, it would be a lot harder to consolidate those means into fewer hands. I agree. And like, that's why it would be really important about like how how do you actually socialize them? That seems to be the $1 million question for me. Sorry, I'm still getting over my sickness. I'm feeling a lot better, but I still, can't talk for long without choking up over here. And especially as that system gets more automated, will it become harder to become part of a worker-owned collective? So why not own it all separately from government and paying dividends? Yes. I think, yeah, like, if you could organize it in a way that would be democratic and it paid out to the people, like, in like the sovereign individuals of a nation, like, that would be a perfect system as well. But like, that's still a system that works within a capitalist mode of production. So you're talking about like some oasis society that has somehow nationalized its means of production, controls them democratically, and uses all of that infrastructure to pay for the lifestyles, the dividends, to pay for the lifestyles of those citizens, of those sovereign individuals, of those working people, because it trades and does business with other capitalist nations. Like, if you were able to get away with all of that, that would be a perfect system. But I would say eventually the capitalists from the outside would impact and like break that system apart somehow, just like what happened with the Soviet Union. Just like what happened kind of with China, I guess. Eventually, they opened themselves up to the free market. Oh, maybe we'll just privatize this little bit here. Maybe we'll just privatize this little bit here, so it's a little bit more competitive, and then we can get better dividends for you sovereign individuals. This is for you guys. And then, like, eventually it just falls back into the same old capitalistic system. So I do believe without revolutionizing the entire mode of production globally, so then a socialized system becomes the main way. Like, imagine if all countries started doing what we're describing, then like you would have a change in the system in its entirety. But like a country could only do that for so long as a satellite country before all of that socialized infrastructure becomes unraveled again. I think that's just the nature of the beast of being within a capitalist mode of production, to be honest. Jaden Soros says, feel bad for Americans. Their voting choice is mostly between factions of the LNP. Pretty much, right? It's like basically hard right or like less hard right. And that's their two choices. Like, because the Democrats are like, by our standards and by the rest of the world's standards, from a liberal democratic standpoint, they're pretty fucking right wing. Like, let's be honest. Home Automation Lab. Yo, congratulations, MysterE. Thank you, William. Welcome to the stream. It is good to see you. I'm not sure if you get to come to many streams at the moment, but like, thank you. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm trying to, answer questions today. So if you have anything, like, we have some interesting conversations in regards to like hypothetical situations about especially automation and what that means for a revolutionary future. So if anyone has any questions, let me know. 4IS says, indoctrination, I'm all for co-ops. I just want them to work in a socialist context, not have to bend to the whims of capitalism. I think that's a very, very good point for AS, and something that like we've developed together as a concept in podcasts is like this idea that like you can have a co-op and it can do a really good job, a really, really good job as an organization trying to survive under capitalism. But at the end of the day, it's subject to the pressures of capitalism. It needs to be a business that basically makes profit. And that's how it exists in a capitalistic context. But like, if you had a co-op that was existing in a socialist society, like that co-op would be completely different if it didn't have to worry about profit all the time. It could just be more efficient as a organization. And like efficiency, what does that mean? Well, like that would be a very different question in a socialistic society as opposed to being in a society that's just based around capital accumulation. And so like, yes, I'm all for co-ops, and especially in a socialistic setting. I envision a super fund for all people that owns the means of production and pays out during the life of a person, not just their retirement. That sounds like communism to me. Like that sounds like fully developed communism. Everybody owns the means of production, and any wealth that is basically derived from ownership of all of that means of production, everybody gets a payout. And like everybody gets a cut of the wealth. And so they can survive and basically do what they want. And it pays out during the life of the person, not just their retirement. Yes, that sounds like communism. It just sounds like a very well-structured way of describing how that would work using existing systems. It's not like we have to recreate the wheel here. We can just use existing ideas and infrastructure. 4AS, reform or revolution? Rosa said it once, say it again. Look, as you would know, I'm a revolutionary. And so like, I don't think you can reform your way out of capitalism. Like we were just discussing about that before, like Ollie Atlas brought it up. Like you can have like liberal ideals where you want to increase people's freedoms and you want to increase people's ability to live an equal existence with others. And you can bring in reforms, so like policy decisions, legislation decisions, changes in agendas to ensure that everybody is treated equally and therefore have a better chance to become free. But like compounding reforms on top of reforms doesn't change the mode of production as such. It doesn't change the way that society functions. And in a capitalist mode of production, honestly, the central relationship is between worker, so labor, and capital. That's the core social relation that happens there. And like people create value, so workers or laborers create value because they're put into motion by capital. And so like I don't think any amount of reforming, even if you made that relationship so perfect, where like there was an actual really good balance between the people that control capital and put workers into motion to create value for everybody else, even if that was done like really well and really balanced in a really balanced way, those are just reforms at the end of the day, and they can be taken away. And like one thing that capital has taught us time and time again, if you just look at the history of it and its trajectory, is that like even the best reforms, like Keynesianism, or the best reforms, like things like super, they get eroded over time. Like if you talk to someone like Paul Keating about what his vision for super was, like super is not delivering the way that Keating had envisaged it. And so like he reformed capitalism to make sure that people were going to be protected in their retirement. And lo and behold, other politicians got in there, other businesses and companies got in there and started eating away at it for their own benefit. And so reforms get degraded over time. They decay, they have a half-life, and they're not as potent as they were originally. And so I don't think, to be honest, reform is a way to do things. Even if you tried to reform your way towards like socialism and then from socialism to communism, it's too easy to undo reforms. I think it has to be revolution. Now, the $1 million question there is, like, for most people, is just like, well, fuck. Does it have to be revolution? Like, revolution seems pretty violent, seems pretty sacrificial, and seems to be a pretty much inconvenience for most people. And I don't think it has to be like that. I really don't think that you have to have a situation where revolution has to be a massive loss to so many people. I think you can structure revolution in a way where, like, not everybody has to die or something like that, or everybody have to make great sacrifices. We're not living in the 20th century anymore, where, like, in order for you to live in a revolutionary society, you have to spend 10 hours on a factory line somewhere to meet your quotas, so everybody in the society can live in a certain way. I think in the age of automation that we live in, we could figure out a revolutionary society without there being great sacrifice. We just need good organization. And so, like, thank you for posing the question for us, but if you're really going to ask reform or revolution, for me, it's revolution every day of the week. Every day of the week. Indoctrination, a UBI, if you will, but one that is truly controlled by the people, like their income. Yes, a UBI in the sense that, like, I like dividend, actually. I like dividend better. And I like that to come, like, as you said, from people owning the means of production. So if you want to call it UBI, fine. But as long as that UBI is derived from people owning all of the levers that create all the value in your society, and you get a cut from that value, then if that's UBI, then call it UBI any day of the week. Ollie Atlas. Nationalized industry created a stereotype concerning socialism and communism that has kept people closed-minded concerning socialism and communism for the last few decades. I agree. I think it's done a lot of damage. And, like, you can see that there's done a lot of damage in, like, the sense of the way that, like, historians go back and pick over the pieces of, like, socialist and communist experiments, where you had a centralized party that gave a mandate and was like, we need this much grain or something like that, or we need this much steel. And, like people would lie to the central party, because the central party, controlled the means of production and expected everyone to deliver. And, like, people just lied about quotas and stuff like that. And then that screwed up the mathematics of planning an economy. And then there were, like, shortages and famines and things like that. And so, like, people, through the centralization of the means of production, the nationalization of it, people don't really have faith. And that's kind of, like, destroyed its reputation for a long time. And, like, I think that was a management issue. And, like, like I said, in the age of automation, in the age of machine learning, I think we could organize stuff very well in a planned economic sense. Much better. And you wouldn't have to rely on humans, like, meeting quotas and lying about stuff. For yes, indoctrination, I reckon it would be better framed as a sovereign wealth fund. MysterE, almost like we had a convo coming out this Sunday on the podcast. Yes, that's a good point. I might drop that if I can. Try and find that. Give me a moment. Find the podcast so people could actually see it. Here's the podcast. There we go. So, like, yes, me and 4AS have actually been speaking about some of these matters in our podcast, Indoctrination. So there's the podcast. If you guys aren't familiar with it or haven't seen it yet, go over and check that out. We have one coming out this Sunday. We do them every couple of weeks. They come out. Plug. Oh, I'm doing it for us. I'm doing it. I read your mind. Thoughts on Andrew Yang's UBI paid for by taxing tech companies. Ooh, yeah. All right. Here it is. Are you ready for this? Give me a second. I want to talk about UBI. Okay? I really want to talk about UBI. Give me one moment. All right, here we go. UBI. I don't know about where UBI should be coming from. Okay, let's just say that UBI comes from taxing tech bros. Okay, that's good. I'm all for taxing the tech bros. Like, I think they are incredibly rich, too rich. They control too much technology, and that technology should be diversified a little bit more. It'd be lovely if it was diversified and given out to the people that work in those industries. But like, that's it's a little bit too much, I think, to ask from capitalists. But like, let's just say, for argument's sake, yes, I'm all for taxing tech bros a little bit more. But UBI, I am not a supporter of UBI. Okay, let me just give you this very controversial opinion, because I know most people love UBI and they think it's a wonderful idea, but it is not my preferred choice. I think UBI is incredibly dangerous. I think in this stage of capitalism, we're going post-neoliberal, and we're moving into what potentially anyway, what Yanis Varoufakis calls techno-feudalism. And as he describes techno-feudalism, you have a bunch of tech bros that no longer seek profit, but they live off rents. They live off people that have subscriptions to their services, and they live off capitalists and people like business owners who make value in society, and their only way to exist is to sell things on their platforms. Again, another form of rent. Now, UBI usually comes from the government. The government taxes some group of people, usually like the entirety of a group of people. But like, it could come from a specific source, like just from the tech bros, but it comes from the tax base, and it is redistributed out to anybody who meets the criteria for getting access to the UBI. Universal generally means that everybody would get access to it, but I'm sure there may be some restrictions or provisions in on that. But let's just go with the fact that it's universal. So everybody gets $20,000 or everybody gets $50,000, depending on what society that you're living in. In a system like one that is neo-reactionary or techno-feudalist, where we're moving away from democratic societies, we're moving away from capitalist modes of production, where capitalists actually try to make commodities for sale in the marketplace, and you're moving towards a system where more and more people just get subscriptions, that the UBI suits the tech bros to a T, to an absolute T. They don't want profits. They're not looking to sell the best product anymore and offer the best service. They're only looking for monopolistic control of entire sections of the digital economy. And they want to be kept on life support as a result of that. And so something like the UBI would be perfect for them. Because what you will have then is you will basically have, let's say everybody gets $50,000, you'll have a conglomeration of like the biggest tech bros out there that will monopolize all competition in their various sectors, and then they will carve up everybody's UBI amongst themselves. The people of Alphabet, so Google's parent company, you get 10% of the UBI. Amazon, you get 10% of the UBI. Netflix, you get another 10% of the UBI. Meta, you get another 10% of the UBI. They'll all carve it up, and they'll structure the economy in a way that the government will collect taxes off people and then redistribute that wealth, and then like they'll carve up the UBI amongst themselves, and basically that'll just be a vehicle for them to maintain their power. The UBI will just be a way for people to get money and then pay subscription fees. So like fealty, like in a real feudalistic environment. Like they'll pay tithes, they'll pay tribute. We will pay tribute to our feudal overlords, because like we won't have work anymore, because like most work will be eradicated with automation, and like we'll need to survive somehow. So money will just become what it should be, which is just a medium of exchange. It's just a way to, circulate goods in the economy, and all of our goods will be funneled through a handful of giant corporations who live off us handing over our UBI to them. And so like I am very pessimistic about UBI in a world where we're moving to. Current system, maybe not that bad. Like, 50 years ago, fantastic idea. Fantastic idea. In a traditional capitalist setting where you have an actual capitalist class actually out there fighting somehow to provide actual goods and profit off the fact that they need to be providing consumer goods to the market. But like, we're moving away from that model. We're moving away from that model, and you could argue that like we have moved away. Yanis Varoufakis does argue for that. He argues that like we are in techno-feudalism. It's killed capitalism. And so in a world where like capitalists aren't fighting over winning you over as the consumer anymore, the UBI is a fucking dream for these people. And I'm very, very worried about it, I must say. It's a good fucking question though. I'm very worried about UBI. But we'll see. We will see. Paychecks should be daily, not weekly. My mum is a teacher and is paid bi-weekly, and we struggle as a result and need to budget as required. You know what's scary? In this day and age, how many people, and like I understand this feeling, how many people live from like paycheck to paycheck. It is fucking scary. Like one of the promises of industrial society and living in like advanced industrial nations, like most of the people I would say in this stream is like at least we were like promised some security that like you wouldn't have to live from paycheck to paycheck. Like that is exactly how people were living in Marx's time. Like 150, 200 years ago, people were like just scraping together to survive. And we got past that, especially after World War II. People were like, we're never going back there. And look at us now. After 5 decades of like intense neoliberalism, and we have this. Paychecks, people should not live paycheck to paycheck. It's fucking disgraceful. And like that's a big problem. Indoctrination. Yep, I want fully automated gay communism. Give me that. Give us fully automated gay communism in space. Can we just say that's the real provision there, in space? And now Elon Musk has split from Trump. He'll do it. He'll take us all to the International Space Station so we can have fully automated gay communism. It's coming. Free jam. I'm not sure if you've been on one of these streams before. Welcome. If this is your first time, let us know. Do you think a genuinely left-wing party could survive in America and have success? I think the turmoil in the US could be a ripe breeding ground for a union movement / Labour Party. It's an interesting question. From my understanding of the history of like American politics, like from like basically the end of, let's say like the start of the 20th century, the union movement has been a political force, but has basically aligned itself with the Democratic Party. And so instead of producing what would be viably a third party, which I think is probably the option that it needs to go down at the moment. It's funny that you say that actually, because I think, what's his name? Elon Musk, in this heat and this fire, actually said that we need a third party. He's now calling for a third party. It's really funny how the cookie crumbles. But I think what has happened in America is like they've established a two-party system to ensure basically that there really is only like obviously two choices. It's much easier control for the capitalist classes. They just pick a winner and they get policy decisions done in either of their interests. That doesn't mean that you can't have a third-party system, but like you need a force with enough power and capital behind it in order to get into that system. Marx always advocated that workers should get politically involved, and like as long as the labor movement in America aligns itself with one party or the other, so like the union movement, like I don't think you'll have a viable third-party option that comes from a fully working class background. Because like a lot of the time the union movement aligns itself with the Democratic Party. In the last election, I know that there was a lot of unions that were actually starting to pledge their fealty to Donald Trump and the Republican Party, because Donald Trump was bringing in policies that were supposedly going to do things for the working class. Supposedly, that's what he promised them. I don't know if he's actually going to deliver on those promises. But like it seems that like the two major parties, have the ears of the union movement in America. And like they just carve up the unions amongst themselves. And so like I think you could definitely have a union aligned or workers aligned movement, a political party in America that would actually threaten the system. But I think all of the workers movement organizations in the States are way too institutionalized and way too set in their own ways. Like, look at the Democratic Socialists of America. Like, they're an actual fighting force, but like, I think they're way too institutionalized. They're way too comfortable just like playing at the edges and like critiquing the system and not like really fucking do anything about it. Like, no offense to anyone who like really enjoys the DSA or like is a member there. Like, I just think these systems, these organizations are way too ossified. They've become too engrossed in their own processes to be like an actual political force. You need someone to basically come through and revolutionize these organizations, or like basically re-galvanize their support. And like, if you had someone like, unfortunately, like, I'm not a big fan of this idea, but like, unfortunately, if you had someone who was like a charismatic leader that was like able to get enough traction, like a Bernie Sanders who was not Bernie Sanders, that was like associated with the Democratic Party, but like someone like that who was a force that could get the unions behind them and get people like the Democratic Socialists of America and pull the capital that they have behind them, they could establish a third party option that was an actual option. But like, I think they're just too in bed with the established parties, because like they've set up agreements and like, you know, quid pro quos and all that sort of stuff. So like, you know, we will tell our members to vote for you, but like, you have to remember us when it comes to making this policy decision. And so like, they realize that like their best bet is probably one of the established parties to get real policy action for their members. And so like, to back a third party would be a big risk for these people. But like, that's because like I said, I don't think they're too institutionalized. They're just an organization now, and they don't have any like risky foresight. They're not going to take big risks on some outlandish politician or political party or third option, because like they just don't think it's going to work. So like, I think the ground is ripe at the moment because of the turmoil. You're right. But like, unless you had some, charismatic leader or well-organized group of people that could get all these people in the same room and say, look, just let's all back the same horse here, and like, we will ensure that you have proper policy decisions. I don't think, like, if they were going to have a Labour Party, the Americans, they would have had one by now. They definitely would have had one by now. And the further you get along, like, with all of this sort of stuff, the harder it gets as well. Like, you know, there may not be, in my prediction, there might not even be democratic options in America very soon. Only time will tell. I think democracy itself is under attack. So like, talking about third parties and all that sort of stuff, I don't even think they're going to have a party system in the not too distant future. I think it's going to get pretty authoritarian over there. But, you know, I hope I am wrong. But seriously though, is it possible now more than ever? And why not? Is that in regards to the Union or Labour Party in America? It's possible because people are disgruntled, but I don't think they're organized enough. And like I said, I just think those organizations that exist, the unions especially, they've already cut all their deals and they've made friendships, and they're not going to sacrifice those friendships, because they do get wins on the board for their members and stuff like that through the established party lines. And so like, it's just too risky for them, I think, to back someone. Like, you really need someone who's just a real leader to bring all these people together to make a serious change there. America has really missed out not having a Labour Party. But like, let's be honest, America is the imperial core of world capitalism. I don't think capital was ever going to let America have a proper workers' party. Like, you can have one in Australia, you can have one in the UK, you can have one in, you know, most liberal democratic societies, but like the center of capitalism, like the juggernaut itself, I don't think capital would, like the capitalist class and capital itself as a force, would have ever let that happen. It would have been way, way too threatening to its existence. And like, it almost happened. It almost happened at the end of like World War II. Like, you know, communism was coming to the Western world, and it stamped it out pretty fucking hard. Like the communist witch trial, and the Red Scare, like all of that sort of stuff was real, and they stamped that shit out hardcore. And now like it's a slur, the word communism in America, and like most people just think it means some evil Russian dude or something like that. So like it would be very difficult, I would say. There's way too much propaganda built up around it. Avalava, this is an interesting question. What does a non-violent revolution even look like? Okay, we're going to go back to kind of some basics here on the question of revolution. Okay, so revolution has got nothing to do, in my opinion, with insurrection. So if you're thinking revolution is like October 1917 Russia, where the Bolsheviks basically took power from the very loose bourgeois control that was happening, and then fought off any reactionary movements from like the capitalist classes and the white army. If you think that night where they took power was a revolution, I would say you're wrong. The revolution is actually the time when you sit down after gaining power and you reconstitute society. So you rewrite your constitution and you figure out how society should be organized. And so if revolution is actually the point at which you sit down and you figure out and you implement how society should be organized, then revolution is not a violent exchange at all. The insurrection, the insurgency, the rebellion, those things are violent elements if you have to use force to gain power. But if you can gain power without having to go through violent affairs, but you're still able to sit down and figure out how to organize society and have that conversation and then implement, that's the revolutionary moment. Most people kind of across the history, but like when the French Revolution happened, which is basically the storming of the Bastille, and when they went over to Versailles and they decided to kind of figure out how they were going to reorganize their society, it took years. It took years for them to formulate a constitution and figure out how they were going to reorganize French society. It took them years to figure that out, from like the starting point to the end point of like, how we're going to do this. And that was the revolution. That was the actual revolution, that part where they all sat down together and decided, how do we manage society moving forward? That is a revolutionary event. So like the violence happened, and it was obviously necessary. But all I'm saying is like violence is not always necessary in order to have a revolutionary event. In an Australian context, you could have a situation where you have a Republican Party. So like people formulate a Republican Party and everybody votes that Republican Party in, and their mandate from the Australian people is to sit down the next day and rewrite the Australian Constitution and figure out how Australia organises itself. And let's say Australia chooses through this Republican Party to reconstitute itself and reorganise itself on a socialistic ground and like set up a super wealth fund where like we nationalise all industry and business in Australia and everybody gets a cut and everybody gets a dividend. That's a revolutionary event. And you could do that through the democratic process without having to have a violent takeover. You could. Like, it's hypothetical, but you could. So like potentially that's what a non-violent revolution may look like. Paychecks should be daily, not weekly. I think I read that one out. Avalava says UBI seems like kind of nice capitalism, like super and Medicare. It will be eroded. UBI will likely become conditional. It also won't address any of the contradictions of capitalism. How does state sovereign currency given to you help when your country of residence doesn't have financial sovereignty? It's a good point. And Ollie Atlas says, well, at least we're not nuking ourselves with the hope aliens come here and they've somehow already achieved communism before us, even though it'd be a 1 in a trillion chance they'd even make up communism. You know, I think China already set the standard for how to revolutionize self-organization. They do like a year-old revolution by that definition, the Chinese. They definitely re-establish themselves every so many decades or something like that and figure out a new way of social organization. And then they have a plan. They have a plan for how they're going to achieve socialism and all that type of stuff. So, yes, they're all over that. Foras says, the socialist parties all the time. Stephen says, yeah, gay communism sounds hot. Just like Trump saying hot the other day when we were watching Musk's farewell speech. And Trump kept referring to America as being hot. He went to the the Gulf countries, and like the leaders of the Gulf countries kept saying to Trump that America is so hot right now because he was able to get men out of women's sports in America. And that America is so hot because there are no men in women's sports anymore. Home Automation Lab. A super fund for all people that owns the means of production and pays out during the life of a person. That would work really well as AI, robotics, and automation advances. Yes, I think like the big key to like socializing things really comes down to technology. Like if we like the computational power that we have now to like organize massive data sets and massive volumes of information is like we didn't have access to this technology before. These productive forces weren't there. Like that would revolutionize how you would organize a society right there if you had the right information. And like governments have this type of information. We could do it. We could do it. I would rather keep doing my work for the people. That would be rewarding, knowing my labor supports everyone. That's a good point. Squeeb, sounds like a national wealth fund. Yes, that's what people are referring to here. And I know the Scandinavians do that sort of stuff well. Avalava is asking questions on the stream chat. Yeah, I saw. Thank you. Thank you. Where are we? Damn, there's been a few questions in here. I feel like the technology coming out now is the revolution that we're waiting for. It's who controls it that matter. Is the matter, though. The reform can be the thing that ingrains that ownership into future generations. Yeah, I think it's the technology is the key. It's always been a big part of the equation. And yeah, who controls it? Squeeb, who sets supply and demand, though? The market or government? In what situation? In a planned economic situation? Well, like in a situation where you had like comprehensive AI that had good data on like what people's needs are, and like it's responsive and continually collecting feedback, then like I don't know if we would even conceptualize as supply and demand as the same thing anymore. Supply wouldn't be this thing that's gifted to us by producing things for profit, and demand wouldn't be a reaction to markets and whether they're stocked appropriately or not. Demand would be taken on an individual basis. It would be accumulated by sets of data that is monitoring what people actually consume. So demand potentially would be based on real consumption as opposed to watching market trends. So like it just depends, I guess. It depends what you mean. And it depends like how extensive the data sets are and how well integrated this automated technology is into managing an economy. Forias, trust me, indoctrination, this is going to be spicy. I know MysterE's thoughts on this. Only that Milton Friedman is the father of UBI. He came up, yeah, isn't that interesting? I always forget that. And it's a really interesting point. Like, I can't believe Milton Friedman came up with fucking UBI. But like, that says enough, doesn't it? Like, Milton Friedman was really angry as the champion of neoliberalism. He was angry that like basically we tax people and pay for all of these services like Social Security and Medicare and like all this sort of bullshit. And he was just like, this is nonsense. What we need to do is like we can tax people once and we give people a UBI and they spend their money on whatever the fuck they want. If they spend it on healthcare, they spend it on healthcare. If they spend it on food, they spend it on food. If they want to spend it on the horses, let them fucking do it. It's freedom. It's about freedom. We would give them some money and we can cut all of the services, get rid of all the services out there. Schooling, education, public transport, everything. Get rid of everything apart from the bare necessities like, you know, defense spending or something like that. Or maybe like critical infrastructure spending. And like people, give them a bit of money Give them a UBI and they can decide what to spend their money on. They will decide, and like the market will figure out what are the best services to provide everyone based on the demand of people having a UBI and clamoring for those services. Fucking Milton Friedman. Like, you'd never think that that would come out of a neoliberal. Squeeb, the pension is a means-tested kind of UBI, and I don't think it's enough to live. We need a lot more tax, I think, to support it. That's a good point, actually. It's all means-tested, and like if you wanted to make it really effectual, enough for people to really meaningfully live off, you'd actually have to raise a lot more money. Indoctrination, yeah, I don't disagree with any of this. It's the same issue I come to. Hence, I want everyone to have an equal stake in the means. I don't care about the money. It's how we get it and owning it. 100%. 100%. It's who owns the means. 100%. Sweep says, being paid daily only works in hyperinflation scenarios where today's dollar is worth nothing tomorrow. Ooh, fuck. That's a very bleak comment there. Squeeb, question. Star Trek shows a vision of a future socialist society and puts the entire system being driven by personal good instead of governance. What can individuals/organizations do today? Is this idealist? I've got no focused situational observation, still stuck in the lofty big end goals. Now, look, I'm not enough of a Star Trek fan or person or anything. I've never even watched an episode of Star Trek to know exactly what their system is. So you'll have to explain what you mean by puts the entire system being driven by personal good instead of governance, meaning. But like from what I understand is, their technology is so sophisticated that everybody's material interests are met. And so you just have like these like people that like dedicate themselves, like a crew of people, to traveling around the universe and like learning things, spreading knowledge, and like, you know, fighting crime or like something like that. Like, you know, helping people out and like personal development. Like if you lived in a society, Squeeb, I think, where like your material benefits, your material needs are catered for to a large extent. Like you can press a button and like whatever food you want, press a button on a 3D printer and whatever good you need to be able to do whatever it is that you want to do materializes in front of you just like that. Then like you can spend time on being human. That's how I see these things. You can spend time on developing yourself. And if you develop yourself, like imagine if humans, like we structured society in a way that developed humans to their potential. Like everybody has interests, everybody has proclivities, everybody has like tendencies, everybody has talents that like, you know, if they developed them, they would potentially be able to offer things to other people. Like even if it's just entertainment, or maybe it's some actual essential skill that like society needs to further and advance itself. Who the fuck knows? But like if we structure society in a way where like, you know, everything else was catered for and people were just able to develop themselves and whatever their tendencies were, their talents and their skill sets were, then like, you know, the human race would, I think, change significantly. So if that's the type of world that Star Trek is all about, like a society where people can like, you know, like that are driven by like what's good for them is therefore good for society, and so they develop themselves personally. Like I think that's a fucking wonderful situation. Like how do you, if your question is like how do you start doing that now in our current situations, like I think good workplaces, Squeeb, honestly, they develop their people. Like good workplaces actually spend a lot of time and they acknowledge that it's not all just about like getting them just to pump work out endlessly. That sort of stress induced environment doesn't produce anything but like little robots. But like people, organizations that spend a lot of time developing their people and making them see the merit in working together with others, collaborating, cooperating, and testing themselves, giving them further education, giving them further training, like all that sort of stuff. I think those organizations do better because like those people bring additional skills to the organization. And so like, you know, if you can get yourself into a company that's like that, or into an organization that's like that, that values developing their people. That's as good as you're fucking gonna get in this system, I would say. And the screen glitched and went really purple. Oh shit. The connection's still good on my end. I've been kicked off, have I? No. I think I'm still good here. And welcome back, Squeeb. That's right. Yeah, set alarm to join the stream and had to put baby to bed. But I'm back. Indoctrination. Nah, it was for the super and UBI thing. The possible message. Chat was moving too fast. Yeah, chat is going fucking off today. Shit. I can't even keep up with it. Most people think revolution is insurrection, reconstituting your society. Squeeb, Myanmar fitness instructor accidentally captures coup. Seems like a revolution. Just ask the French. French are known for their protests, so they carry on the tradition. Yeah, it's in their fucking DNA. That's for sure. That would be a populist movement. That's possible. Parisian boulevards built to allow armies to quell riots and revolutions. They do like turning the military on their people. Indoctrination. Do you think we'll have any choice but revolution soon? Like anything with AI and robotics going on, it's almost like it's inevitable. It's just who comes out on top now. Like, to be honest, like I've always had the inclination myself. Am I dropping out or am I still, I'm still here? I think I'm still good. Now, to be honest, I've always had the belief, and I don't know if this is just bias now in self-reflection, but like I've always had the belief that revolution was inevitable. But like I don't actually think that it is actually as inevitable as I would have thought before, as a bright-eyed revolutionary. I think that capitalism is adapting right now. It's moving away from neoliberalism and towards authoritarianism because it's looking to survive. And if we make a transition away from neoliberalism, which people have been really pissed off with now for a long time, after 50 years of neoliberal policy, austerity measures, the destruction of the labor movement, and like deindustrialization throughout much of the advanced industrial world, people are upset. And so like if neoliberalism continues, you're going to have a revolutionary event. But like as we've been talking about, I think capitalism is much smarter than that. Like capital as an entity, as a force. And it is developing into this neo-reactionary stuff, which is basically like authoritarianism. And so it's going to dismantle the idea of democracy to help itself survive. If we go into a situation where we move away from liberal democratic societies, I don't think we're going to get a revolution, because like it's going to concentrate the means of production into fewer and fewer hands, like in the hands of the tech bros, and they will amass more power. If they amass more power, they have more control. And in that new dynamic, in that new situation, you're going to have to wait a few decades of that for people to become disgruntled enough with that style of authoritarian system in a capitalistic setting like that for them to want revolutionary change. I think we're at a point now, a crucial crossing road. The liberal revolution and its ending and the start of a neo-reactionary authoritarian style of capitalism. And like if we want to do any type of revolutionary stuff, it's like now, because people are still upset with the neoliberal order. But the neoliberal order is not hanging out for much longer. It's not going to be around forever. And so like I think it is crucial at this juncture in history, but like I don't think, like if we're talking about the sentiment of the people, if the authoritarian style of governance takes over, which is what we see around the world for the most part, like everywhere outside of basically Western countries is authoritarian. If we see a move to authoritarianism, I don't think people have the revolutionary spirit at the moment to carry that on. It'll take a little bit of time, I think. All right, what have I missed? Oh, the Atlas. That's a real ideology, what I mentioned there. For as things will shake up when people realize that populism and populist movement is just a conservative slur. Yeah, it's a good point. Bring out your hot takes, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, please. Ollie Atlas, opinion on Theodore Roosevelt and FDR. Oh, you're pulling me up on American history. Hey, Ollie Atlas, I should be asking you your thoughts. Look, Teddy, old Teddy boy, I think he was a sick dog. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, what was he? Like, he's a rich New Yorker who, like, had a tragic event happen to him in his, like, 20s. And then, like, took off and became a cowboy. He became a fucking cowboy. And then, like, went and fought in, like, Cuba to, like, help, like, overthrow, like the Spanish imperial forces there and liberate Cuba. Basically allow them to become, like, a capitalistic, kind of a liberal society. And allow the Cuban capitalist class to take a hold. But, like, he went over to the the Cuban Civil War, fought over there on behalf of them, and then, like, came back and, like, got into office as, like, as the vice president, and then the president at the time, McKinley or something, got assassinated, and then he's, like, vice president, young dude, like, in his 40s, and, like, becomes the actual, by default, because he was vice president, becomes the president of America, and then ends up winning his own elections after that, and, like, does some pretty crazy shit. Like, he's the guy that, like, carved out the Panama Canal. Like, he was a visionary. He was forward-thinking American president, but, like, you know, hardcore by today's standards. Like, you know, he was a fucking cowboy. And, like, you know what he did? You got to give him credit for this. Because he was a cowboy, and he was, like, this city boy that, like, went out and, like, became in touch with nature and, like, regional America, rural America. He became kind of associated with that culture, that American Western value kind of thing. He went out and was just like, shit, the way that capitalism is going is it's tearing up the natural environment. And he was kind of like, let's just, like, start making national parks everywhere. And so, like, he created more national parks in America, like, than anyone else has ever done by, like, any comparative measure, and, like, just made sure that, like, the environment was conserved for future generations. So, like, that's his legacy. It's not a bad legacy. Like, he was, like, a real environmentalist, and, like, he's done some questionable things, don't get me wrong, but, like, you know, for the most part, I think he did something that was, like, well beyond his time. Good old Teddy. FDR, like, I don't know, like, it depends how you see the New Deal. Like, the New Deal was, like, what leftists kind of were dreaming of in terms of someone taking capitalism by the reins and, like, crafting it so it's not just being constantly pushed in the direction and the favor of the capitalist class. And so, like, he brought in all of these policies and decisions that were, like, in the interests of America as a whole, not just the interests of, like, the capitalist class. And so, like, that was good. And, like, you know, it's basically set America up for its golden century, the 20th century. And so, like, he's crucial in that regard. Like, the New Deal was, like, significant in American history. But, like, you know, in light of the discussion that we've been having today about humanizing capitalism, he's a real liberal in that regard, because, like, he saved capitalism from itself. If you didn't have FDR and the New Deal, you would have had America imploding in on itself during the Great Depression. And, like, maybe there would have been a communist revolution in America then. So, like, FDR saved capitalism from itself and, like, humanized capitalism really well, but he saved capitalism. And so, like, it's notable what FDR did, but, like, if you think of it, like, in that regard, all he did was save capitalism. And so, like, maybe if he wasn't there would have been a world communist revolution. Like, it was happening in Russia, it happened in China after World War II. Like, it would have happened all over Europe. But FDR had set up such a legacy. By the time he died and World War II ended, the Americans just went on the attack and crushed communism in Europe. And like they did deals under the Marshall Plan. And we're like, okay, if we help you rebuild Europe, you have to promise not to be communist. And so like every country that had support from America in the West, in Western Europe, like under the Marshall Plan, they had to sign the black dotted line and say that they would crush communism. And the Americans crushed communism at home. And like that was all on the back of FDR's legacy. So like from a revolutionary perspective, FDR is a very controversial figure. Okay, he helped capitalism survive, but like, did he stop something else from happening? Potentially. But like, maybe that means the world wasn't ready for communism yet. And America definitely wasn't. Maybe it's ready now. Maybe it'll be ready soon. But it depends how you want to interpret those two people, I think. It's all in your interpretation or your reading of history. I'm just going to read something from the stream chat. I've missed a lot. Here's a question for you. Do we live in a society? What does that mean, huh, punk? What is society? What does community mean? Eh? What is community? Is community like where you live? Is community an online organization of people? What does society even mean? Yeah, that's a good fucking question. They live. What does that movie mean? Huh? Punk? Doesn't capitalism always lean towards authoritarianism? When has capital ever not decided to allow for changes that benefit the working people? Okay, so like I guess it depends what your meaning of authoritarianism is then. Have a laugh. Because like initially capitalism set up liberal democracies. And so liberal democracies were really conglomerations of representatives of the bourgeoisie that got together and used democracy amongst themselves. And so like traditional Marxists would call that the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. So like it was a form of authoritarianism because the bourgeoisie controlled the political spectrum. But when you got universal suffrage, like democracy was opened up. This bourgeois democratic system was actually opened up to all the people, including the working class. And so like, yeah, what is authoritarianism? Capitalism did open itself up though to political involvement by the working classes. So like, give me one moment. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. So, where were we? Yeah, so like, it really depends what you mean by authoritarianism. Like, if you think that we don't have democracy today and we live in a bourgeois democratic system, then that's a form of authoritarianism because like the system is really geared to ensure the politics of the bourgeoisie reign supreme with the veneer that like everybody's involved in politics because they get a vote. So like that's still a form of authoritarianism. So like, yes, capital tends towards authoritarianism because like it needs to control the political system so it maintains itself. But like, I think you can have variations of authoritarianism, and I think we're swinging back to like more concentrated extreme authoritarianism, where we have tried to keep up a tradition of democracy in the West anyway, and I think that's going. William says, a system that benefits everyone. Imagine a truly open source and transparent system, not just in code, but in function. Its architecture is interwoven with AI agents capable of explaining every part of the system, including any changes made over time. These agents serve as transparency models, ensuring nothing is hidden or obfuscated. At its core is a blockchain-based infrastructure designed to track the needs and wants of individuals and communities. Every person is assigned an AI agent, if they choose, that represents their best interest within the system. These agents act as advocates, analysts, and communicators. Communities, councils, cities, states, and national governments would also have their own AI agents. Your personal agent would liaise with these entities, ensuring fair and accurate representation in decisions that affect you. This is how you start to democratize society and organize society with technology. Imagine being able to organize yourself in a society where you were able to actually plug into a system that's not owned by a bunch of tech bros for profit, but is like owned by a collective, the management of society, whatever that means, of course, society, whatever that means, but like it's managed for organizing a group of people. From birth, each individual is linked to a sovereign wealth fund, akin to a system like indoctrination mentioned, which accumulates value generated by AI, robotics, and automation. As traditional labor becomes less central in the economy, this fund redistributes wealth equitably, providing a stable foundation for personal and collective well-being. AI research is prioritized around benefiting human needs and desires, advancing health, science, and social good. The system is also agile, able to pivot rapidly to respond to black swan events, ensuring resilience in times of crisis. And most importantly, the system is owned by the people, not corporations, not governments, but for all of us. It exists to serve humanity, guided by transparency, equity, and mutual empowerment. Through vast decentralized data collection managed ethically by personal and community agents, the system continuously adapts, evolving in service of humanity's highest potential. Sounds like digital twinning. We spoke about this at length, yes, 4AS. We've spoken about this type of stuff before in podcasts, and it's interesting to see it put so succinctly, so concisely, and articulated like this. It's very interesting. But like, this is the potential. Like, this is the potential that we have as revolutionaries and humans in imagining a system, in imagining a society, whatever that means, based on the use and the integration of our technologies these days. And so like, if our technology is so incredible now, and like the automation potential is there, like, it's stupid to think that we should just keep this type of technology, the means of production that we have access to today, the productive potential of the human race. We should just be using that so a bunch of private individuals can profit off it. Imagine if we turned our productive capabilities as a species to like organizing ourselves better, or being more effective with the way that we spend our resources and our energy. Imagine if we turned our capability as humans towards this type of stuff instead of just profit. Like, don't get me wrong, profit, great. Profit's been very, very impactful as a source and a motivational tool. But that we have to do it forever. Do we have to do it forever? Fuck no, we don't have to do it forever. Fuck no. That's my take of the day. AI, check it, but Star Trek shows a utopia in a world where anything can be 3D printed. So what do people do with their lives? No money, and jobs aligned to a value the person gets for the collective. The reason people clash with it is there is no description shown around systems to enforce get there. It's people need to choose to use the time to do good rather than just binge drinking and destroying. More question is if we have everything we want, what stops us from going into The Shining? Yeah, he did get Star Trek pretty good. For someone who's never seen Star Trek, you described their version of the future civilization pretty damn well. Well, I just have heard people speak about, oh yeah, like Star Trek, like kind of thing. When like, you know, you talk about like communism and stuff like that. People are like, oh yeah, like Star Trek, like kind of thing. So like, you know, that's that idea of like, you know, pressing a button and like stuff that you need is like there for you. Like what stops people from like, you know, being nihilistic and not wanting to do everything if we just get into it, and like people just go like crazy, if that's what you mean by The Shining. Is that a reference to the movie The Shining? Like, yeah, like what's stopping people from going crazy in a system like that? I don't know. What's stopping people from going nuts in this system? Like nothing. Like this system causes its own psychosis. And like various systems of social organization all have their own psychosis actually associated with them. Various systems of capitalism have their own psychosis associated with it. So like people go crazy under any system. But like, do we need the type of craziness that is developed under a capitalistic system? Not anymore, I don't think. I don't think we need this type of craziness anymore. Congrats on the 2 subs, young man. 2K subs. Thank you, Jerry Poppins, you bad cunt. Welcome to the Friday stream. It's good to see you. And so like, yeah, I don't think there is actually anything that's going to stop like people from just like being lazy and going nuts in a system where like everything's provided for them, right? But I'll tell you an interesting like historical note. When there was I think they were Americans. Anyway, the people that developed the sewing machine, which like, you know, anyone who's got a grandma or a mum who's like, you know, handy at home, you know, has seen a sewing machine before. And it's pretty much a stock standard item in most households, I would say, across the developed world. Everybody knows someone who's got a sewing machine. Anyway, when the sewing machine was first invented, the 2 people that produced the inventors of the sewing machine were fucking livid because they couldn't convince anyone to buy it. They invented this thing that they thought was going to be this liberatory tool for all these women out there because they wouldn't have to spend all their time fucking hand sewing everything. They could actually just use a machine that was going to basically cut their time, their domestic duties, like cut the time by 10, like was going to liberate them and allow them to do stuff. And the reason that women weren't buying the sewing machines was because they were like, well, fuck, what are we going to do with our time if we're not sitting around sewing anymore? We don't want to buy this because it chews up our time. It gives us something to do to pass the time. And so like these guys were just like, fuck, this is incredible. Like people don't want to buy it because they want to spend time sewing because like what else are they going to fucking do? And so like every time there's a technology that comes on board, like something in Star Trek where you press a button, everything that you need materializes in front of you, people will always think like, well, fuck, what am I going to do with my time? What the hell am I going to do with myself if I don't have to make a sandwich anymore and I press a button, a sandwich is made for me? What do I do now if like I want something and it just materializes in front of me? What the fuck am I going to do with my time? Let me just say this. Humans are incredibly complex social creatures. And so like I would say a lot of our time is actually spent being social and trying to figure out the politics of individual human relations, community-wide human relations, and society-wide human relations, whatever that is. And like, so a lot of our time is spent interacting with other humans. And so like, if you were able to just press a button and things came to you, like you would still have a lot of shit to do because you would have to deal with other people. And like, on top of that, humans are also industrious and incredibly imaginative. And I think a lot of people spend a lot of time on crafty things that they like because they like to produce things with their hands and they like to see visions that they have inside their mind's eye come to fruition. And so like they have an idea, they want to achieve this thing and then they go out and fucking do it. So like if people didn't have to spend their time sewing, and like, you know, I just take that as an example. They don't have to spend their time sewing now. And they're just thinking, well, fuck, what am I going to do with all my time? Well, I'm going to have to figure out something else to do. Maybe I'll go out and contribute to the community and I'll start a community organization. Or maybe I'll go out and I'll work on my friendships because like I should have been a better friend to these people. Or I'm going to go into politics because I like want to right this social wrong. Like I think humans will find other shit to do just because they can press a button and shit happens. Like we live in that type of world anyway. Before, most people spent a lot of time collecting wood because they needed to heat their houses, or they had to go and trade stuff to get coal so they could heat their houses or have light at nighttime. Well, right now I can go over to the wall and flick a button and I've got light. And so like maybe 150 years ago, people were like, oh, I don't want to live in that world, man. Well, all I have to do is flick a button and the lights turn on. I like collecting wood, like kind of thing. Maybe in a world where you have everything at your fingertips, like you will just find other things to do because like life is fucking complicated and there's other shit that goes on and it doesn't have to be taken up with basically you trading your time to get money from somebody else so you can survive in this system. And like, if we freed up our time a little bit more, we would do other human things. And maybe some people just fucking play Xbox all day. But like, fuck, if that's what you want to do, then fucking good luck to you. Go play fucking Xbox all day. Who gives a shit? But like, if we could free up some people that really could contribute something amazing to society and free them up, free their time up so they could make those contributions, that's already a better society right off the bat, I would say. But who the fuck knows? It's all speculation. There's only one way to find out though. And I'm all for finding out. But does society mean state or culture? Well, like, look, society, look, you've really thrown a spanner in the works with this one, Avalava. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what society is. Society is a very amorphous term. And like, yeah, does it mean state or culture? I think society is enforced by state and realized by culture, if that makes any sense. So if culture comes up with the ideal, the state enforces it. And so there is a dialectical relationship between state and culture that goes on there. One producing and one maintaining and sustaining. And then like it just continues in that cycle and that circle. Now, I'd spend more time with animals. See, like, you know, why not? See, actually, I was being very human-centric in my assessment of that situation. Some people being social has got nothing to do with interacting with humans. Maybe it's other life forms. Spend more time with animals. You're getting close to Zuck. People don't realize the value tech will add to their life until it's forced upon them or something like that. Yeah. What did he say? People don't see the value in something until afterwards or something. And so like, they don't know what's good for them, basically. I'll force it upon them. Then they can ask questions later. Avalava, not trying to be a contrarian or against the idea, just suspicious of anyone imposing a theoretical system, maintaining that it's the best. I know, it was a pretty good system, Avalava. I'm all down for that AI world. Got to give it a shot anyway. Who sets the values and ethics? Elected stewards who've given up wealth and privilege to serve. Only those willing to make real sacrifices can lead. Each is paired with a digital twin for transparency and accountability. Why is AI needed? Humans set the values, AI scales them, analyzing complex, ever-changing data to act in our best interests at speed and scale. How is the AI trained ethically? Using open source data sets approved by the public. A transparent process builds a seed agent with every update logged, reviewed, and open to scrutiny. How is sabotage prevented? Through a decentralized network of watchdog AIs and people, constantly testing, probing, and defending the system. Red team versus blue team, always learning, always accountable. Oh wait, I missed something. Oh, and who controls these agents? Who determines their value and ethics? Why is AI even required for that? Can't humans do this? How is this trained and built ethically? So many questions. How do we even get to that point? Is it fair and equitable? How do we organize decisions around this system? Good questions, though. No, I agree. You're asking good questions. No fucking idea. I'm just turning my thought vomit into text. Work backwards. But yes, I think the grand thesis of this conversation so far is, I think we need to re-evaluate society and reimagine things and revolutionize it. I don't think reforming capitalism is the way to go. Like, I'm all for humanizing capitalism if we're stuck with it. But like, I don't believe that we're stuck with it. I believe that we should, as humans, and like, this is something that is just not really well considered, is that like, humans as social creatures, and a defining point of being human, because there are many social mammals out there, and there are many social animals in the animal kingdom, but like, humans have this ability, due to our imagination, I think, to actually decide how we organize ourselves as social creatures. And so like, we should spend a lot more time thinking about that type of stuff and putting it into practice. And like, revolution is the key word there. Avalava says, there are so many ethical and philosophical questions that would poke so many holes in this theoretical system by people much smarter than I. Pius Jacob says, worst case scenario is the workers' system is abolished in favor of employers using technological implants placed in himself or herself to mind control and enslave a set number of people to fulfill tasks. Scream says, saying AI takeover is just saying it's too hard a problem for people to solve, so give yourself over to the machine. And that's like the argument a lot of the tech bros use. Don't worry, AI will save us all. Just invest in my AI specifically. I would return to my mysticism roots, but I only got into my field for survival. Cash equals survival tickets. Yes. I would return to my mysticism roots. Yeah, I got into the employment that I got into for survival as well, until I realized one day, and I was like, fuck, what am I doing with my life? I'm like, why am I surviving? I think I need to do something else. I think I need to do something that gives my life a little bit more meaning. But like, it's so difficult to be able to make decisions based on that in a system that is designed where we all are geared towards having to be pushed into a field for our survival. It's such a hard thing. AI Jesus, take the wheel. This is basically the bender. I'll save us meme. Yeah. But like, look at like what Ollie Atlas has brought up in the stream chat. Worst case scenario is worker system is abolished in favor of employers using technological implants. Like, come on. Like, that world is fucking coming, people. Like, you watch. The next thing that's going to be fucking on the agenda is like people talking about like Neuralink and stuff like that. Like, implants are coming. Implants are coming. That's the type of techno-feudalism we get to look forward to. And like, you think revolution is going to take over in that type of situation where like they're inside your mind all the time and they can fucking switch you off remotely? That's fucking scary. And these are the type of stuff that comes out of a techno-feudal environment as well. It's just control. So it's not even got to do with like capital accumulation anymore. It's like got to do with like control. Because they've got power anyway. So what's better than current power? More power! Damn it. I, for one, welcome our new AI overlords. Implants. It's not a hardware problem, but software. Yeah. Just wait until they upgrade your OS. Oh, you're still working on that operating system? Oh, that's why you're so slow. Yeah, won't lie. I've been going through the same thoughts. Like, the hell I'm doing mowing lawns when I could be doing so much more as well. Well, like, look. I think if we all worked together, eventually we could get there. And like, that's where I want to take the movement. I want to take it in a direction like that, where like, if we can get enough resources behind it, we can actually start to liberate one another and start working on something that could, snowball into something else, if you know what I mean. Avalava, for example, most religions have stated that killing people is bad and should not be done, yet most of all of them have done so in the name of said religion. Another point that I think is worth considering, AI hype is really big at the moment. I know many crypto bros had many similar ideas about Bitcoin, and if shitcoin would change the world. We just need more technology that will solve our problems. I think that's a really interesting point, actually, especially on the crypto stuff. Like, everyone thinks that like crypto is going to solve the problems of the world because like capitalism revolves around the monetary form, and so like if you revolutionize money, then that would change the system. But like that's the thing though, in capitalism, capital and money are not the same thing. Money is a medium of exchange, a measure of equivalence between items, and it is a form at which capital takes at a certain part in its process. And so like money is not the be all and end all. And so like, yes, all those fucking crypto people that were just like, yes, this is going to revolutionize everything. It will change capitalism, but it won't revolutionize capitalism. It won't revolutionize capitalism. And so the tech won't change capitalism. AI won't change capitalism, especially if it stays in the hands of the fucking tech bros. But like, it can be used as a tool by humans to help us reorganize society. We just have to use it like a tool, not like, bow down to it and be like, oh my God, save us all from ourselves kind of thing. That, I'm not down with that shit. But I am down with it being a tool of the revolution. I do believe in that wholeheartedly. We are social animals. We just need community. Money spent $350 billion per year for AI and increasing to trillions per year. Yeah, like, and this is why I keep saying they are the most important section of the bourgeoisie right now. The fucking tech bros. Like, anyone who can convince the entirety of society to turn around and start spending most of its resources on one form of the means of production is the most important section of the bourgeoisie. And one, we need to acknowledge it, and two, we need to figure out how the fuck we fight against that. These are really good points. I'm an idealist. Look, I think to a certain extent we all are. To a certain extent. We try to be a little bit more grounded in concrete reality, but like there's nothing like having ideals. I think it's very human. These are really good points. LOL, I put all of this into an LLM and asked, what would you do? Its response, honestly, I'd probably get depressed by the scale of it all. Wasting time arguing on the internet. Well, I guess that's what separates us from the machines. We are happy to discuss things, humans. Sit around debating things. But there is truth in the fact that it's all theory until you put it into practice. And on that note, I am going to leave it there. So I just want to say, fuck me. And a huge thank you to everyone who has contributed over the last year. Like, it's been a huge year. And like, thank you to everyone to helping do what you've done to help us to get to 2K subs. It's a massive milestone. And so like, I think it's good for all of us to like come together and have one of these kind of sessions so we can all have a chat, like the proper kind of reading group stuff that we envisaged back in the day with Jag. And like, not that I've seen Jag in a long time, so I hope he's okay. Oh my God, it's David. Holy shit. Yes, 2K. Big congratulations. Thank you, David. It's good to see you. I'm not sure if you've been watching the whole stream or not, but it's good when you can actually contribute, because I know like it's hard for you when you're working, stuff like that. So it's good to have you in the chat. And Script says, I am not a robot. Thank you for verifying. Nihilism gets you nowhere. We need praxis. 100% praxis. Yes. And yeah, thank you everyone for contributing. Throughout the year and especially today, interacting and stuff. I think this has been an interesting discussion, nonetheless. And so yes, let me do my usual call outs. 4AS, as always, Indoctrinathan, Ollie Atlas, Xanthophyll, Jaden, New Time, Home Automation Lab. So William, thank you. Who else we got here? Free Jam, Stevens Ed coming in with his zingers as always. Who else have we got? Who have I missed? Jerry Poppins, another zinger as always. David, good. Came in about 15 minutes ago. Sucks being on the other side of the planet. I know. But like this has been a crazy discussion. So if you're interested in a good discussion, maybe watch this one back because we've had some crazy thoughts going on here. Squeeb, thank you as well for your contributions. Avalava, thank you. And anyone else that I've missed on the stream chat? No, I think I've got everyone. We do need praxis, says William. I appreciate all the replies. This is great stuff. It's nice to connect with like-minded people. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it bloody is. So yes, thank you everyone for your interactions today. And like I said, like throughout the year and stuff like that. And for anyone who's been around for longer than that, like who's been here for years now, you know who you are. You've really contributed to this. So thank you. If you are new to the stream, this is your first trip around the sun here. Let me give you the Discord. Here it is. Go and join us on Discord and get in on the propaganda. And if you could go over to Patreon as well, I would appreciate that. And like sign up for free. And like so I can get notifications to you. It's better. Would you like to know more? And like if you can financially support that, I would really appreciate that too. So come over on Patreon. And yeah, thank you everybody. It's been fucking crazy discussion today. And I've held up too. I thought my voice would go. But like I did it. I made it. 2 hours of talking. I fucking did it. I'm proud of myself. But yes, thank you everyone. Really appreciate it. And it's good to see a lot of you. We need some critical thinking skills that can only increase our movement potential. I'm not attempting to be an antagonist or gatekeeping. The opposite, in fact. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We do appreciate it. And enjoy your fucking weekend. If you're in Australia and you got the long weekend, enjoy that. This is a time where capital should not be touching you. Thank you, everyone. And until next time, please remember, as always, I am, you are, we are a MysterE. See you on the other side. Someone play the music.